this week's portion. I want to thank everybody for coming, by the way. One of the things that we learn actually from this week is what a true leader is. That's probably on the second part. And then the first part, we're going to talk about if you see somebody's action, how are we supposed to judge them? It's amazing the outlook that the Torah has on that. This week's parasha, this week, there's a lot of strange things happening. One of the strange things that do happen, in this week's parasha, we learn about the flood. When Noah and his family and all the animals, they go into the ark, into the teva. So when they come out, it says the first thing Noah did, he started planting a vineyard. And then he got drunk. He actually drank a lot of wine. Now, why would he do that? There's actually a lot of commentators talking about it. But, we are not that we are maybe have seen it. When people get into depression, they want to forget about their sorrows. So there's two things you can do, unfortunately, in a negative way. Either use drugs or use alcohol. So that makes you happy and high. I don't think Noah had access to drugs those days. I don't think so. I don't think they were that advanced. Maybe they were. But obviously getting, wine or, alcohol was easier. So a lot of commentators say when he was in the world, before they went into the ark, it was really a beautiful world, right? Nice, plants, everything. So he goes into the ark for a whole year. After a year, when he comes out, he sees the world empty. So could really see his devastation, how bad he felt. So because of that, some commentators say that he went and he drank alcohol to get out of his depression a little bit. That's not everybody's opinion. Some people explain it in a more spiritual way, but this is a simple way that, they explain it. And then one of the strange things that he does, once he gets drunk, he goes into his own tent and he gets undressed. Like whatever, in his level, an immoral act. Definitely not, in the Jewish language, not sanua, was definitely not a modest thing that he did. So now the Torah tells us the reaction of his children. One of his kids was Cham. He goes into the tent, I guess, Noah was making noise or something, or just happens that he walks in there and he sees the father undressed. So his reaction was he walked outside and he told his other two brothers, maybe even his wife and the sister-in-laws, because there were not any people in the world yet at that time. It was only these 8 people, and he makes fun of his dad. He says, what our father did, come on. He's like, just imagine. He wasn't 18 years old, that I could say he has hot blood. He was 601 years old then. Pretty much an old man. He lived 2/3 of his life. So him getting drunk and getting undressed is a little bit strange. So he made fun of his father. The Torah says that Shem and Cham, Shem and Yefet, the other 2 boys, they actually took a garment or they took a blanket, they covered their father. But what the Torah tells us, there's a few extra words. The Torah says that they went into the tent to cover their father, Vayelchu achoranit. They walked in backwards. Then the Torah says again, Ufneim achoranit. Their face was backwards. Why the repetition? So Rashi explains when they walked into the tent, they didn't want to see their father in such a bad state. So they walked in the back to their father. Now when they get close to their dad, they have to turn around to cover him. They can't cover him backwards. They have to turn around to cover him. So that's what it says. Even when they had to turn around, they didn't look directly at their father. They turned their face the other way. So that's why it says twice. One time it says they walk backwards, and one time it says that their face was backwards. So even when they had to turn around, they put their face the other way. The only problem which Rashi doesn't explain, the Torah continues and it says, "Ve'ervat avihem lo ra'u." They didn't see the nakedness of their father. Seemingly, these words are extra. If they walked in backwards, if they turned their face the other way, I understand myself, they didn't see their father naked. What does the Torah say those words? And again, not too many people explain it. For sure, Rashi doesn't explain it. So we're going to discuss actually what's the depth of these words in the Torah. So before that, there's a lot of interesting things that Baal Shem Tov says. Baal Shem Tov has a statement. It says, if I see somebody committing a crime or he does a sin, it's as if I'm looking in a mirror. That's a sign that I have that sin within me. And he says, when I look at somebody else, I see him doing something bad, it's as if I'm looking in the mirror. If I look at the mirror and I see a clean face, it's because my face is clean. If I look at the mirror and I see a dirty face, that's because my own face is dirty. So when I see somebody else, I actually have that same fault in me. Now the Baal Shem Tov goes on to explain, is that really true? What if I see somebody murdering someone? That means I'm a murderer? It's not true. What is he saying? Seemingly, it's not logical. So the Baal Shem Tov says, no, not that he does act of murder, but in a subtle way. I have certain character traits, or I do something which is equal to murder in a much more refined way. Like one of the examples of the Gemara says, if I embarrass somebody publicly, it's equal to killing him. Because it turns white, whatever blood comes to his face. Or the Gemara says, when I say Lashon Hara, when I slander behind somebody's back, so saying bad about somebody is equal to killing him. So when I see somebody doing something bad, could be I don't have the same exact sin, but in a subtle way I have the same category. That's the explanation of the Baal Shem Tov. And his logic is, we actually see it in this week's parasha. It says God doesn't like to say anything negative about anyone, not even animals. Where do we learn that from? So the Gemara says, the Talmud says very interestingly, when God commanded Noah, this week's portion, he should take kosher animals and non-kosher animals to the ark. So the Gemara says for kosher animals is tehora, pure. What's the opposite of pure? If you want to say it in short sentence, short word. What's the opposite of tahor? No, that's kosher and asur. It's tamen, right? Hatzmeya. Tamen is impure. So God doesn't tell Noah, take from hatehora seven pairs, and from tmeya 2 pairs, 1 pair of animals. It says mina behema asher, that einena kshera, which is not einena tahora, which is not tahor. And the Torah usually is short. Instead of putting 5 words, hatmeya, the Torah says asher einena tahora, which is not pure. So the Gemara says, why did God do that? He wants to teach us never to bring negative words from our mouth. To say tameh, like it's not a good word. When I said this is not kosher, I'm not saying this is forbidden. Just saying it's not kosher, so it's not as bad. So from here they learn, if God is so careful and is teaching us, even regarding animals, we shouldn't say something negative. So why would God show somebody else in front of me that is sin? Doesn't make sense. Why would God show me his negative, his flaws? So you must say that the reason why God is doing it has a purpose. I don't realize my own flaws. But when I see somebody else doing a bad thing, I notice it. Because I have self-love. Self-love covers all my faults. The other person I don't love as much, naturally. So when I see his faults, I really see his faults. So that makes me think, hey, why did God show this to me? Probably have the same fault within me. That's a logic that actually the Baal Shem Tov says. That's his logic behind this matter. But there's actually a very big question against the Baal Shem Tov. You see, if I would come to this world, if my purpose was to make myself perfect only, then maybe when I see somebody is doing something wrong, the bad thing is within me too. But we are not here just to perfect ourselves. We are here actually, we are responsible. All Jews are responsible for each other. We are even responsible for the nations of the world. We have an obligation to teach them there's 7 commandments. It's interesting. We're not there to convert them, but we are there to teach them the 7 commandments to keep. For the Goyim is 7. They don't have to keep Shabbos, you know what I'm saying? The Goyim have 7 commandments. It's called the Noahite laws that God gave to Noah.
So besides from Shabbat, what are the other 2 that are not?
Well, I could tell you what the 7 laws are. They can't worship idols, no blaspheming, they can't hurt animals, no stealing, no committing adultery. There's another one, no murder. And then number 7 is they have to create courthouses that will judge the people for doing the 6 wrong things. That's their 7 that they have to keep.
So then it wouldn't be like the first commandment.
Well, you see, they have to believe in God. So they can't worship idols, they can't blaspheme, they can't curse God or something. So anyways, so our job is also to educate others, to bring other people closer to God, make sure they don't do sins. So to ask a question on the Baal Shem Tov, maybe when God shows me something negative about someone, it's not because I'm looking in a mirror, because my job is to tell him, don't do this sin anymore. What's his proof? That I see the other guy doing something wrong, to find out that same wrong thing in me. Maybe there's nothing wrong in me. I only see his bad because my obligation is to bring him closer to God. Very, very good question. And the whole logic of Baal Shem Tov. So on that, the Rebbe explains, the Lubavitch gives a very beautiful explanation. When I see somebody else doing something wrong, what's my reaction? Right away. What's my reaction? Is my reaction that, oh, what a terrible person he is? Or is my reaction, this thing is done, what's my obligation? One of the examples they bring is in children's book. Imagine somebody walks into the synagogue and he's walking so carelessly that he hits the table and one of the Torah books falls. I don't mean the Sefer Torah, one of the Sidurim falls on the floor. And he doesn't even see to pick it up. So my reaction could be, what a terrible person. Look, the way he walks into a synagogue, doesn't even realize it's God's house. And then not only that, he knocks a table and the Siddur falls down, doesn't even care to pick it up. That's one way to look at it. Or my other way is not to have such a negative reaction to that person. If I see a Siddur is on the floor, my obligation is to pick it up, not judge the other person. Of course, the person did something wrong. But at least the main thing that sticks out by me is not to victimize him, to say something bad about him. So that's exactly what the Baal Shem Tov says. When I see somebody doing something wrong, if what sticks out by me is that, look what a terrible person he is, not what's my obligation, not that, well, God showed this to me. Maybe the guy doesn't know. My job is to teach him not to do that wrong thing. The first thing is I become judgmental against him. So if that bad thing is sticking out, it's a simon, it's a sign that I have that sin within me in a subtle way. But if I don't judge him in a negative way, I just see my obligation. He did something wrong. My obligation is to teach him, to learn with him, show him the right path. But you don't judge him. So since that negative thing is not sticking out, that shows I don't have that negative thing in me. I really saw it just to bring him closer. With that, they actually explain one of the midrashim. Guys, there are many stories. If you talk about real righteous people, they could actually look at a person and they could see what he has done wrong before. There's many, if you look at many stories of the great Kabbalists, like the Arizal, we had many, Sephardi Kabbalists, there were a lot of big rebbes, from the Ashkenazi world. They will be able to look at a person and actually tell him what he did wrong. One of the interesting stories, I'm getting a little bit, off track. I want to say maybe, yeah, getting off track a little bit. But there's one of the stories with the Baal Shem Tov that one time somebody came to see him. The guy was rich, was very well to do. And he tells about Shem Tov, I'm not here to ask for a blessing. I have whatever I want. I just came here to see your holy face. So Baal Shem Tov asked him, do you need something? He says, no, I don't need anything. So Baal Shem Tov says, you know what? I have something very serious to tell you. And he says, well, years ago, there were two kids born in the same neighborhood, best friends. They shared everything they had, toys, food. They went to each other's houses. When they grew up, they got married. So because of their parnasa, their livelihood, each one had to go to another part of the city. They didn't see each other at all. Those days, the only way of communication was by sending letters. No internet, no telephones. This is 330 years ago.
I'm confused. They were worried like that the wives would be shared too.
No, no, no. They had to go away because of the business. They were best friends. They used to share everything until they got married. A good, whatever. If you're a good wife, you go where your husband brings food, when he makes money. But sometimes you go, you love your in-laws so much that you move to get with your wife where the in-laws live. Whatever the reason was, I'm saying it was because of the business, their job. They both were very successful. They made a lot of money. Let's call them Reuven and Shimon. So then what happens is Reuven has a lot of setbacks in business, very bad, and he becomes a poor man and he had a lot of debts. So now what I'm going to do? I need money. What am I supposed to do? He remembers his best friend Shimon. And he says, I heard he's doing very well. He lives in the other side of town. So he travels to him, and Shimon sees him and says, what's going on, Reuben? You look so awful. He says, well, I lost all my money. I need a loan from you. So Shimon says, a loan I wouldn't give you. You're my best friend. Why should I give you a loan? Let me see how much extra cash I have. I'll give you a gift. I mean, really, very, very, very nice guy. He gave charity, I guess. This is my best friend. I could give charity to him. And he gives a huge amount of money to him. The way the story says, he gave him 50% of his cash. Of course, he had other businesses too. I don't know if it was in real estate, it was in other stuff. But from savings, the cash that he had, he gave 50%. So Reuben is very happy, he goes back home. But you know how it is when somebody becomes poor one time. So either he becomes more humble because he knows what it feels like, or then he's afraid to spend money. He might become poor again. So Reuben decided not to be generous anymore. Any poor man that knocked on his door, he would not even see him. He would tell his servant or whatever, his secretary, my request is anybody that knocks on our door, give him 1 ruble, $1. Like the guys that come to synagogues, everybody gives him $1. So that's all you give him. So a few years goes by, and this time Shimon loses all his money. Now he needs some money. So he says, you know what? I gave my money as a gift to my best friend Reuven, but I'm sure that he doesn't mind helping me. I heard that he's doing well. So he goes back and he knocks on Reuven's door, very on the other side of the city. And then the secretary comes out, the servant, and he says, oh, you're a beggar. Here's a dollar, a ruble. So he says, no, 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 I'm not a regular beggar. Please tell Reuven that his best friend Shimon is coming to see him. So the secretary comes back and he says, sorry, Reuven does not know a Shimon at all. And he closed the door on his face. So this Shimon goes back home, he's devastated and he didn't eat. And he was really very depressed seeing, his best friend doesn't even recognize the good that was done to him. On the way back home, he dies. A few days later, Reuven also dies. Some accident, some freak things happens and he dies. So when both go in front of the heavenly court, so then, the court decides that Shimon has to go to heaven. Such a nice guy, he gave 50% of his money, religious, everything. And then Reuven, such a bad person, even didn't pay back the good that he got. He has to go to Gehenna. So then Shimon says, no, 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 the good guy. I can't enjoy my Gan Eden, my heaven, if I know my best friend is being punished in Gehenna. I can't accept that. There's a joke. I mean, half of it is true, half of it is joke. It says if a lady gives birth to 7 sons, she goes straight to heaven. I don't mean right away, after 120 years. Why? Because raising boys is very difficult. So she had her Gehenna on this earth. Everybody says that, it looks it. But now the question is, where does the husband go? Okay, so the wife goes to heaven. She had, 7 labors and 7 sons. What? The husband is the eighth kid, but it doesn't say the children go there. So the joke is, what is the wife's heaven worth without the husband? Of course, the husband has to be there for her to have her Gan Eden. But this part is a joke, but we say it as a joke all the time. All the men go to heaven because of the merits of their wives. We should say this by the Sheva Brachot, anybody that gets married. Whenever I see guys, I say, this is your wife? Cheli delet bechad. Speak Persian? Yeah, you should wish to have such a wife. Whenever I go, I see couples, see, when I see my wife, cheri delan bechad. You, the same thing too. Cheri delet bechad. But anyways, so God agrees, the heavenly court agrees, and they give him a chance to come back down again. Shimon, the nice guy, is going to come back to this world as a poor man. Reuven, the bad guy, is going to come down to this world as a rich man. They will not even know each other. But God is going to cause them to meet each other again. Saying Shimon, the poor man, is going to knock on the door of Reuven. If Reuven is going to give him money, he has fixed his past. He will go to heaven. If not, that's it. He lost his chance. So Baal Shem Tov, with this piercing look, he looks at this guy, not piercing, I'm sorry. He looks at him and he says, the guy came at your door this morning and you slammed the door on his face. You didn't give him the money. So you remember that morning, before he came to the Baal Shem Tov, a beggar came to his door and didn't give him money. So the guy is shocked and he tells the Baal Shem Tov, tell me, did the guy die? And he says, yes, he did. So he fainted because he knew he lost his chance. So when they awaken him, he begs the Baal Shem Tov, give me a way to fix my past. So he says, well, you got to go find his family and support the rest of for the rest of their lives, the family of this poor man. And he said, by the way, you have to go find out and give 50% of your money to charity causes, because that's how much he got in his previous life. But he was lucky that, Baal Shem to figure it out. But what do we see? Righteous people really see what wrong things a person has done. At the same time, there is a medrash that the medrash quotes and he says, righteous people don't see evil in other people. Well, if they know exactly what we did, they see our wrong things too. What does it mean they don't see evil? So here the Rebbe explains, of course they see what we did, but they don't look at it as an evil thing. When they see me, that I have done something wrong, they see their obligation to bring us back to the right path. They don't see that something evil. Is that clear? It's a very, very pure thing, very interesting thing that the Torah explains. So coming back to Noah, you see, when Noah was undressed, he got drunk in the tent, there is two ways to look at the situation. Either I'll go make fun of my dad, look at this old man. He's over 600 years old. He thinks he's a youngster, he gets undressed. Or I don't look at it as a negative thing. I see my obligation to cover my father. If he's undressed, if he's in such a degrading situation, my job is to cover up his disgrace. So Ham, when he saw his father naked, what's stuck out by him? Not to go cover him. He actually went out and he told the brothers bad things. So he saw the nakedness of his father. He didn't see his obligation to cover him up. But the other two brothers, it says they walked in backwards. Even when they got next to their father, they had to turn around, they put their face the other way. But the Torah adds these three words. Ervat avihem lo, they didn't see the nakedness of their dad. That means they didn't look at him saying, oh, look, he's naked. Look how evil he is. They didn't see the nakedness. They saw their obligation to cover him up. This is the message that Torah is giving us. And honestly, I think it's a very, very great message. Why is it a very great message? You see, no matter how one we are, Jews are really one. And when we go through trouble, we actually see it. Now there's no difference. You're religious, you're not religious, you're lefty, you're a righty. Everybody in Israel is united. And I really say it proudly. The whole world is united with them. I'm saying Jews, at least most of them. When you have in the Arab countries disasters, they don't even help each other. I'm telling you. You look at the Arab Spring. One country doesn't help the other ones. Now that these Palestinians need a place, not a single Arab country, not a single one, gives them a place to go there. Jews are not like that. Somebody needs something in times of trouble, we help. Probably millions of dollars have been sent, all over the world by the Jews. Anyways, but nevertheless, there are sometimes separation between us. And that is, sometimes as religious people, we judge the non-religious as if, oh, they're not religious, there are like something wrong with them. Or sometimes, the secular Jews, they judge the religious Jews. So the thing that we learn from this week's parsha, my job is not to judge him in a negative way. Even if something is done and I'm not happy with it, I have to see what's my obligation. God is showing it to me. What's my obligation? To fix the situation, not to judge it. Is that clear, people? That's one of the things that we learn from Parshat Noah. I remember you. you. You're not married yet? Okay. So it's time to study some Torah so you become a better husband in the future. Better father, better person. We're all good people. Anyways, we're going to do something. Is there any questions on this one?
You explain the nakedness part.
Oh, you didn't get it? You see, when they saw their father not dressed, so how much look at it? I was, oh, my father, look, old man getting undressed. What's wrong with him? So that means by me, his nakedness sticking out. The other two brothers didn't look at it that way. They saw the father is undressed. What's my obligation? To cover him. So the negative, the disgrace of the father didn't stick out by them. First son, Ham, what did he say? Look at that father, 600 years old, he gets naked. He didn't do anything about it. He just went and told the other brothers, made fun of his father. So what did he see in this situation? His obligation to defend his father, or he just saw the negativity, the disgrace of his father? He just saw the disgrace. So he went and told his brothers. The other two didn't do that. They went and they covered their father. So they didn't see the disgrace. They felt, what's my obligation? That's what the Torah says. They didn't see the nakedness of their father, meaning they didn't see the disgrace. By them, that wasn't sticking out. By then, this says, it's our father, we have an obligation to cover it. Clear? So now going to the next part of this week's parsha, actually, it's a very interesting thing. We're talking about leaders. We always had many, many great leaders. Yeah, by the Jews, you had great leaders. By the non-Jewish world, you had many, many great leaders. No question about it. So there's actually a part of the Zohar that compares three generations and three leaders that they had, but it compares them to each other, one higher than the previous one. These three leaders, one is Noah, this week's parsha. The other one is Abraham Avinu, and then the one after that, it's Moshe Rabbeinu. Yeah, I don't know where they keep the keyboard. I'm sorry. You see, when you put on a kippah, they don't see your bald spot. When I just became religious, was 4 years ago. Persians were not religious. So it says, Rabbi, I wasn't rabbi yet. Take off your kippah, your head needs some air. Otherwise, you're going to become bald. The prediction was correct. So I even put a bigger one, so nobody sees my bald spot. But my question is, all the Persians are bald. Isn't that true? A lot. I'm saying the old generation. Yeah, yeah, everybody's bald. It has nothing to do with the kippah. So you just get bald. So, anyways, when you get older, put on a bigger kippah because a little bit grows on the sides here, so they don't see your bald spot. So your wife is going to think you're always handsome. These are my tricks. I have a lot of tricks when you go on dates too. Please do not take the leftover food home because she's going to think you're cheap. But after you get married, take the leftover food home so she doesn't have to cook. These are good tips. It's so true.
She back cooker.
No, no, because you want to give her to rest. She could cook, you just don't want her to cook.
Just eat all the food that
Right. You know, there's actually a true story. We're going to get to Moshe Rabbeinu soon. You know, there was a story with a. That's why it's always good to have a matchmaker that really cares between the boy and the girl that go out. Because sometimes a lot of awkward things happen that the boy or the girl get upset, but really they don't know better. So there was a boy and a girl that went out. The boy came from a family that the parents taught to waste food is the biggest sin, or at least one of the big sins. That's what they taught them. And again, it's true, you shouldn't waste food. For example, they said that the first Rebbe of Chabad, his wife, he would never waste the leftover foods from Shabbat because he has the Kedusha holiness, so he can't throw holy food out. He would give it somebody to eat during the week. But anyways, so the girl came from a family that didn't say wasting food is the greatest sin. So they went on a date, but we know religious people don't, at least my generation, I don't know about now. When they go on dates, they don't spend too much money. You buy a Coke. So you go to a big, hotel that has a executive lobby. In my days, the Coke was like $8 a cup. So that was like a rich guy at that time, spending money. But we didn't go to restaurants, buying food for $50. So this boy and girl, they go on a shidduch, and then whatever they order a muffin or something, girls are very careful not to eat everything, or they watch their diet, more than boys. So she only ate half a muffin. The boy finished the entire muffin. When they finished, and she was about to throw it out, because what are you going to do with the other half? He screamed, "No, don't throw it out." So the girl thought, my gosh, he's so cheap. And she broke it up. No more dating. But when he spoke to the Shadchan says, no, he's not a cheap guy. I know the family, the parents taught him that it's a sin to throw the food out. He didn't scream at you, the girl, because whatever, he's cheap, but because he felt it's a sin. They went out and they got married at the end. So I'm saying it's always good to have a Shadchan that cares about you. Because honestly, many times we see something as awkward and bad, but it's not really bad. So that's my suggestion. When you get to the age of shidduchim, please have a rebbetzin or a rabbi that really cares about you, or whatever, a friend that is married for many years, very experienced, that cares about you. Because many of these things, they are really nothing. You just make a big deal. Now, after you spoke about marriage so much, let's go back last few minutes, and hopefully we're going to be in Schnitzeli by 9 o'clock. Anyway, so we talk about Noah, Abraham, and Moshe Rabbeinu. All of them, their generation was, some of the people at least in the generation, or the entire generation, they were corrupt. Again, this week's parsha, we all know, the entire generation was corrupt, and Noah was the only righteous person. And I want to add, you see, today for us to be religious is not such a big deal, because even though we have a lot of non-religious people, you have so many religious people. Could you imagine the entire world being corrupt, only one family being religious? It really takes a lot of courage and a lot of commitment to stay religious. That was Noah and his family. They believed in God. Everybody was stealing, robbing, not caring, committing adultery, any physical pleasure. They were doing even on the cost of others. But Noah was the only family, and his 3 sons and 3 daughter-in-laws. They really kept whatever to their best of ability, whatever God wants. He's a real hero. But the problem with him was that when God said, "I'm going to destroy the world," he didn't pray for them. God says, "Go make the ark. It's going to take you 120 years." The Torah says, the Rashi says, for 120 years, he was building the ark. He started with planting the cedar trees, whatever it was, because he lived, 950 years. So he built the ark. So why did God do it that way? God could have saved him some other way. So Rashi says, so people see him, he's doing these strange things. Noah, what are you doing? So he'd say, well, God is going to bring a flood. And if you don't repent, you're all going to die. He did that, but he never prayed to God. How could you kill so many people? They're evil, but they're little children. They're evil. What did animals do wrong? So whatever. He didn't pray for them. So the Zohar actually blames him, and they put the fault of the flood on him a little bit. Because we find in the book of Isaiah, Yeshayahu, when God says, I promise I'll never bring the flood, he says, I promise never to bring the flood of Noah. In book of Yeshaya, Isaiah, it's called the flood of Noah. The flood didn't come because of Noah. The flood came because of the evil of the generation. Why does he call it the flood of Noah? So the Zohar says because he never cared to pray for them. So there's actually an expression in Hasidic philosophy. They call Noah tzaddik in his fur coat. Very, very funny statement. Why? Because let's say if the room is cold, there is two ways to warm it up. Either put on a fur coat or put on a heater. The difference is when I put on a fur coat, I only make myself warm. When I turn on the heater, everybody else in the room gets warm. And they're both tzaddikim, they're good people. So Noach, they call him tzaddik in pelts. Pelts means a fur coat. He was a tzaddik, but in his own fur coat. He only kept his family religious. He didn't care to go out and bring people back or actually pray for them. So that's why the Zohar doesn't consider, even though he was a big hero, like the ideal leader. The Zohar goes along and he says, times of Abraham Avinu, something similar happened. We all know the story of Sodom, right, and Amorah, 5 cities that God wanted to destroy, and he destroyed 4 of them. And if you want to know about their cruelty, they were very cruel. I think really, they were like ISIS or Hamas today, to a certain extent. Because one of the reasons why God decided to destroy Sodom, what was the last evil thing that they did? They had a rule, we don't want to have any homeless here. So anybody who economically is doing well, he's more than welcome to become a citizen of Sodom. Anybody who begs for food, don't give him anything. Because if you give him food, you're going to have a bunch of homeless coming. So don't give him anything, so they go to other cities. Now Lot, nephew of Abraham Avinu, had a daughter. She had a very good heart. She's a beggar one time sitting somewhere. So she would go every day to the well to draw water. So she put like a loaf of bread under her sleeve or whatever and passed by and just threw it on the floor. And the guy ate it. Nobody knew. But listen, people are not stupid. If there's a beggar here and nobody is feeding him, how's he surviving for a week or so? Must be getting food from somewhere. So they investigate, they see Lot's daughter, whatever, let's loaf of bread falling from her sleeve. So what did they do? They didn't just, kick out the beggar and tell the girl, don't do it. They took her, they undressed her, and they put a lot of honey on her body, and then they brought a whole, I don't know, cage of bees, and they threw it on her body. She was bitten to death by the bees. That's a story in the Medrash about the city of Sodom. Whatever, they didn't burn the body, but again, whatever, that was the ISIS type or the Hamas type of those days. So God tells Abraham, these people are so evil, I'm going to destroy the entire city. So there were 5 cities, as we said, right? You know the famous story. Abraham comes to God and he says, God, maybe there is 50 righteous people. How could you kill them? Why did he ask for 50 righteous? There were 5 cities, 10 for each city. If there's a million of tzaddikim, so they should be good enough to save the whole city. How could you destroy righteous with wicked at the same time? How could you kill innocent people with wicked people at the same time? So God says, you know what? Okay, there's no 50 tzaddikim. Then he says, maybe there is 40, maybe there is 30, maybe there is 10. At least one of the cities will get saved. God says there's not even 10 people in that city that are righteous. Once Abram heard that, he didn't continue praying. So his prayer was that God has no right to kill the righteous with the evil. But the moment he found out they're only evil people, so kill them. That's it, no problem. When it comes to Moshe, we find actually in Parshat Kitisa, at that time the Jews worshipped idols, right? They made a golden calf. Now, if somebody today makes a golden calf, okay, whatever. But the whole nation saw God on Har Sinai. They heard God talking to them, right? When God says, I'm your God, no other idols. They saw the miracles of God coming out of Egypt. It's not like today that we don't see miracles. And then 40 days after they hear the 10 commandments, they go and make the golden calf. So God tells Moshe, forget it. These people have no hope. Let's destroy them. But Moshe prays for every single Jew, even the ones that worshipped idols. He didn't say, okay, kill them, they worshipped idols. And God gave him a good deal. He said, let me destroy them all. I'll make the Jewish nation from you. So we would all be called Bnei Moshe. No more Bnei Israel, children of Yaakov. He had a very good offer, and he said no. So the Zohar says that's a difference. We see Noah didn't pray for anyone. Abraham Avinu prayed only for the righteous, for the sake of the righteous. But Moshe prayed even for the sinners. So they said that he was he's the best, actually an ideal leader, that he really cares about everyone, even the sinners. Right? Like we said in the first part. Go ahead.
Whenever he was like sinning and stealing, and he said he was one religious family.
That was by Noah, by the flood.
Why was that person so like resilient to not go towards like stealing, like just like the rest of them? Why was he the only one?
He was a righteous man. He was a hero.
What influenced him to become
I don't know. Maybe he had a good father. I have no idea. Maybe he was a thinker. You know what I'm saying? By the way, we have these people in this generation. Look, Mother, even amongst non-Jews, Mother Teresa. I mean, she had a good life in England or something. She goes to India, a bunch of poor people. She really dedicated her life to Indian children. She's a hero. Nobody else does it. Not to that extent. I didn't do it. I'm not doing it. I think she's a bigger hero than I am. Honest to God. So we always have some people that are extraordinary in every generation. Noah was that type. Anyway, so remember, guys, hopefully the learning of today the merit should be for our soldiers, all the people that are captives in Gaza. Hopefully they come back home soon. Everybody that was hurt, damaged, whatever it was, hopefully they get a refuah shlema. Let's go to Schnitzel if you guys are okay. Bezrat Hashem.